Hello, everyone. Welcome to the July edition of our GX meetup, community meetup. Here's what we have on the agenda for y'all today. So we'll do our usual community celebration or share the latest stats on both our community and our open source. And then I'm very excited to be able to then introduce y'all to our new senior community product manager, Mollie. So she'll be able to hop on and introduce herself. And as her first act of being our community product manager, hopefully some of you saw it on our Slack that we've introduced the GX Discourse forum. So Mollie will walk you through a little of that, the reason why we introduced this GX Discourse forum, and how you work with it. And then, oops, what did I do? I'll walk you through that. And then Tal will share some of the latest on our product roadmap, some of the updates, what we're working on. I think you'll like a lot of what you see. And then finally, we'll have some educational content to send you on your way. Two of our developer advocates, Hebishan and Austin, will do a joint presentation on how to do a multi-batch checkpoint. That's something we've seen a number of you run into, the issue that a number of you run into over the past few weeks. We have a new piece of documentation now that shows you how to do it, but Hebishan and Austin will actually also do a video, in-person walkthrough of that. So all right, I'm not gonna spoil any of it. Have to stay until the end. Okay, let's get into it. Here's our community growth. Thanks to all of you. Our community still continues to grow. We've grown by just Slack alone. We've grown by another 192 members since the last time we talked. And so thank you all for continuing being part of our community and helping us, spread word of mouth and help us grow. Here's our latest stats on PyBite downloads. We had a bit over 2.5 mil downloads just last week, and total of 11 million downloads last month. So still really high usage. And thanks to all the community members who helped also contribute to continuing to make this a great product for everyone. And especially we want to thank a few of our top Slack supporters. Some of these names you'll probably, if you're in our Slack, you'll see that they come in and help answer various Slack questions or start interesting conversations in general. And now that we have such a large community, we really need folks like them to keep it going, to answer all the questions and help with all of that. So I want to thank a few, right, in particular, Caesar, Han, Veronica, Alexi, Toivo, Rodolfo, and Ulad. I think Ulad Zila, sorry about that. Yeah, thank you all for helping answer questions in Slack or helping, with chiming in with all of the useful questions, useful conversations. And then a few of you are also, have recently, in the past month, did some great contributions to our code base. I want to highlight a few of you. Toivo, Hadas, Eden, and Christian. Let me turn this over to Tal, though. Actually, as I'm going through this, I'm like, actually, Tal, you can let me speak to this a lot better. Tal, do you want to go over a few of these contributions?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, so we merged 4 really awesome community contributions this month. Toivo added support for Fluent data sources, Azure, GCS, and S3, added support for recursive file discovery to make it easier to connect to more data to Great Expectations. Hadas made updates to expect day sum to be close to equivalent weekday mean. And it's really cool because she's slowly been building and contributing to this expectation and making changes to it. And it's been really amazing to like watch it evolve and become even more useful. And then Eden added expect queried call and pair values to be both filled or null. So it's really awesome to see another call and pair expectation be added. And then Christian helped add make improvements to our contributor documentation, which is really fantastic. It's really great to get docs changes, and especially when you have a contributor making contributions to our contributor docs, it really adds a whole extra level to things. So thanks so much, everybody.
Yeah, thank you all. And if you are interested in contributing and have questions, we have a hashtag contributing channel in our Slack. And if you run into troubles or just questions, go in there and we'll have someone help you with the contribution process. Also, we have docs. You can read that too. Cool. So it's a great pleasure that I can now introduce Mollie Pettit as our senior community product manager. You've probably seen her around a little bit in our Slack, but now she's joined us full time, and I couldn't be happier. So let me turn it over to Mollie. Mollie, do you want to say hi and do introduction?
Yeah, I can do that. Thanks so much, Josh. Yeah, so I just joined GX full time. I've actually been working with Great Expectations since March as a consultant, and turns out I just had such a great time working with Josh and the team that I decided to leave my life of consulting and join full time. A bit about me, just kind of my background. I, in a past life, was a geoscientist before turning into tech, but have worked as a data scientist, who moved into focus and data visualization engineering with a quick stint at, well, not quick stint, but worked for a while at Netflix before moving on to DevRel. And even when I was a developer, I always felt a really huge draw to communities, to like create and foster them. And this is back when I had nothing to do with my job. So that would be like creating local meetups for people in my field, planning on conferences. One of the bigger examples is co-founding the Data Viz Society, which co-founded in 2019 and now has 19K members. And as the events director of DVS, also created a conference, a global conference that I managed for 2 years. When I heard about developer relations back in 2019 and realized there was a way to combine these things that I loved a lot, which was development and community and education, it was just super obvious to me that was my next move. So my last 2 roles, I headed up developer relations teams at Observable and Elemental. And now I'm really excited to be joining here. So hope to be interacting with some of you in the Slack, and you'll be hearing more from me. Oh yeah, and then it's still me because I'm going to introduce something. Hey, okay.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, go for it.
So let's see who's in control of the slides.
I am in control.
Cool. Okay. So one of the first announcement you would have seen from me is about Discourse. So I'm just going to talk about that for a second and kind of what brought us there. The problem is that, well, first of all, Slack is a great space for a lot of communications. However, there are issues with it as a knowledge base. So messages posted to Slack, first of all, they're not publicly searchable. So if somebody has, even if somebody has the exact same problem as you and you've already posted and you've already gotten an answer, but they do a search in Google, maybe they're not in the Slack, whatever, they're not going to find it. And that means that people are not able to benefit from the knowledge that's already been shared. And so it kind of creates a cycle. Additionally, even if you are in Slack, messages disappear after 90 days. But again, even if we move to a different app where messages don't expire, they still wouldn't be publicly searchable, which we feel is like a huge miss when it comes to ensuring that our users can find answers to their questions and get onboarded. So considering this, we've revamped the GX Discourse forum and prepared it to be a supported place for getting your questions answered. Our aim is to move towards a future where like a lot of the Q&A takes place here. And that Slack will still function as a place for community members to connect and engage with each other. We also want to make sure that this transition is as seamless as possible for people. And we acknowledge that not everyone will want to change their workflow, especially right away, and that some people still prefer Slack. So while we do request that people post in here when they can, we've also established a pipeline to help bridge the gap via an integration. So if you want to go to the next slide, I'm going to walk you through kind of like what happens, like how the integration works. So let's say you post in Discourse. See my sample question. What's going to happen right away is that question will be posted in the Slack. That means that when you're posting questions in Discourse, you don't need to worry about people in Slack not seeing it. Everyone who's in either of those community spaces will be able to see it. Then, if somebody responds within the Slack thread, it will very quickly be posted back to the Discourse, and so forth and so on. If someone replies to the Discourse, it'll go back in the Slack, etc. So this means that like no matter where somebody is, if they are able to help answer that question, they will be able to see it. So yeah, that's what I got. And yeah, I encourage people to post there. And if you have any feedback or questions, feel free to post in GX feedback or reach out.
Sweet. I love it. Thanks, Mollie.
Yeah.
And then in the spirit of being like our community, being our meetup, we have our close circle of friends here. Like, let me pause for like questions and feedback here. Like, does that immediately like resonate with anyone on this call? Anyone have any concerns, feedback so far? Has anyone tried using it? Let me pause a bit to see if there are questions about this. Nothing, huh? I'm going to see all of you on Discourse soon. We have someone chats. Can you maybe send a link to the Discourse? Yeah, sure. We can.
I can grab that, Josh.
Austin's already on it. That was really fast, Austin. Thanks, Austin. Yep. So yeah, so that's the Discourse link. Yeah, maybe we'll make sure it's in the newsletter too, in our email newsletter this week, so you all have it there. Yeah, and then we should probably maybe add an annotation or something on this video too. And
if you're in Slack, it's also in the announcement I just posted if you need to find it later as well.
Right. So that's in the announcement channel. Cool. Anyone else? Any questions? Alrighty. If there are not any more questions, yeah, any more questions, go to our Slack. We have a GX feedback channel. Share there. Yeah, I'd love to hear, if it's just working for you, workflow. Like what I really love to see is, right, love to hear is maybe in a month or two, you have a question about GX and you enter your error message, paste your error message into Google and you found the answer on our Discourse because we now have that question answered on Discourse and now it's searchable and you don't have to try to dig through Slack to find your question or the answer to your question anymore. All right, let's jump into our product updates. Paul, take it away.
Yeah, so just wanted to highlight a few things here. So first, we've added support for SQL Alchemy v2 and Pandas v2. This was really exciting. I know a lot of people had asked for this, and it was a good amount of work, and it was really great. So now we get all the benefits of those things. And And we've also made a bunch of improvements to GX Cloud. So you can do things now like create and edit expectations from the UI, add historical charts for viewing validation results over time. So some other things that are going to be coming up soon. So we're in the process of adding some new focused data assistants to make it easier to understand your data and quickly add expectations. So first up, we'll have one around missingness, and then we'll be working on volume, table schema, and freshness as well. Then we're also working on adding table and column descriptive metrics to GX Cloud so that you can get like quick stats, quick key metadata or about each of your data assets there. So yeah, that's what we've got. If you have any feedback on any of the things that we've done, please pop into the feedback channel in Slack. We'd love to hear from you.
Yep, whether it's open source or cloud, I read a lot, close to all of our, feedback, especially, feedback in our Slack channel. So, we take them very seriously. So please do give us our feedback. Cool. Moving on. I think we now enter the educational portion. Actually, before we move on, any questions? Let me give a little bit of time pause on the product roadmap. Let me give it 30 seconds to a minute for everyone to kind of absorb this. You have questions about about what we've done. Any questions about our future roadmap while we'll have Tall here? Cool. Well, yeah, go ahead.
May I ask a question? So for my case, so because my data system is BigQuery from Google, so before I moved my GX from local to cloud, however, after the agent is used, so because the GX Cloud is not compatible with BigQuery, so I cannot use GX Cloud anymore. So and then when I go back to local, because I installed the agent, so I cannot use local anymore. So it means I cannot use GX anymore. So right now, I have to create a new environment and to run it locally. So that's my case.
I see. Yeah, that's good feedback. So you sounds like so it sounds like right now if you're trying to use Google, you're trying to use BigQuery.
Yeah.
You can use GX Cloud. Let me make sure. Yeah, well, I have to confirm. Like, why don't you, Eric? Can you send that to me in the? Can you share that in the support channel, the cloud beta support channel, and then I'll make sure to confirm if that's the case. I'm curious if that's actually the case because I feel like the agent is just running GX Cloud. I'm sorry, running GX, on your local machine. So you should be able to do the things that.
Yes. So for GX Cloud, I can run GX in GX Cloud. The problem is, so I cannot use the agent button to generate the suite.
Okay,
that's the problem.
Understood.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Sharing the channel, I probably we can't solve it here.
Okay.
But yeah, if you share it, I'll have an engineer or someone look at it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks, Eric. Yep, thanks, Eric. All right, product. Wait, what happened? Okay, all right, let's move on. So this is a I think this is Happy Chance portion. So we're going to take you through an overview of a GX API walkthrough. Take you through a walkthrough of the GX API. I think this is very helpful, especially for some of our newer members who are looking to kind of get an overview of what the workthrough of like a GX, or what a what a kind of overview of what working with the GX API will look like. And then I think we're going to jump into a specific use case with a multi-batch checkpoint, which is a common problem that we've noticed a lot of users run into, where they have a number of batches, they're trying to run in a single checkpoint, but it's only running the first batch. So we'll cover both of these, and I think it'll be a joint presentation from Hebi-chan and Austin. So let me pause there and turn it over to them both.
Yeah, hi everybody. So my name is Hebi-chan. I'm the developer advocate here. So before talking about this whole multi-batch issue that we'll be talking about, let me just start with a little bit more of a preface, and which is going to be this API walkthrough. So if you can go to the next slide. So what we have done is we have created two diagrams that show you how to execute GX end-to-end, right? The simple use case one is more for those who are starting out with the GX. I don't know how many of you guys are new to GX here, but please take a look. We'll send all the links here through our community channel. If you guys want access to, we can also send it to the comments section here. Now,
actually, Hebi-chan, sorry, I'm going to interrupt you a bit. Can I get so can who here are like very new to GX? So you're using GX for, let's say, only like 2 weeks, right? You're still learning about GX, new to GX. Can you either raise your hand and just say like me or something in chat? I kind of want to get a sense of like what our audience makeup looks like. Yeah, so you can either raise your hand or like say something in chat about I am new, or consider yourself a new user to GX. I want to get a sense of our audience here. So, hi Suzanne, welcome to Great Expectations. Okay, so I am not getting a lot of people raising hands. All right. Okay, cool. Yeah, just curious. Sorry, Hebi-chan.
at all. Yeah,
Right.
thanks for joining us, Suzanne. So I guess just to really simplify, what's the difference between the simple and the advanced? Is that for simple, it's again for those who are kind of new to GX, but really what's happening is that it just really uses one object per object. Let me show you what I mean by that. Can you click on just that link, the simple use case flowchart? And this is all public. You guys can all take a look. Again, we can share the links here as well. But what's essentially happening is, yes, there's a lot of movement, right? But what we're doing is we're basically taking one data source, one asset, one batch request, one validator, and then one checkpoint. It's one of each, right? And there's like different ways to execute this in the sense that, okay, what do you want your data source to be? Do you want it to be a pandas, or do you want it to be like a SQL database, Redshift or something? Right? Do you want it by Spark? And there's different ways to really navigate through this flowchart, right? You can go back and forth and so on. But again, it's really a very simplified way, but also a visualized way to understand how to, again, implement our system from beginning to finish, right? That's really what it is. Now, if you move on, Josh, to the advanced, now this is where we start to get into more of a complex use case. And here, what's happening here is that instead of, again, 1, what happens when you have multiple data sources, multiple assets, multiple batches of data, multiple blah, blah, blah? What is the best ways to really, again, go from start to finish? Because there's really various multiple ways to get from the start to the end point, right? And I'm not going to bore you guys with all the very small details of, hey, this is what's happening here in this part of the flowchart. I'm happy to have that discussion offline if you guys want to reach out to me. I'm available in our community Slack, right? But again, this is what's making the difference. Now, why this is an interesting and important preface is that as we were building out this flowchart, we began to be really aware of this need for us to explain that, look, in our current checkpoint, there's kind of this issue, and this is what we're going to be talking about in this portion, right? And what our solution is for this issue that's been surfaced by you guys, something that we're very aware as well. If you can go to the next slide. So this is the core of the problem. And this relates to this advanced use case. Again, right, you have multiples of these objects. What happens is that when you have multiple batches of data, right, you have different data that you're loading onto, like our assets, suites, validators, so on and so forth, right? When you have multiple batches of data and you try to squeeze that all into that checkpoint right there, only the last batch, batch 3, is going to be processed. And this is a big problem that has been found. Again, this is more of like an advanced users, right? So Suzanne, you might not have encountered this yet, but you will, where you have multiple batches of data. We have a lot of documentation on this. The issue again is that you try to squeeze that all in, ram it all into that one checkpoint, and it's only going to be processing that one batch of data. Our advanced users have recognized this issue, and they're like, what the heck do we do? And they've been building their own solutions. One of the solutions that we've seen, if you can move on to the next one, Josh, actually before that, we've seen this error, whether or not you're dealing with the file system data source, that is to say, like you have data in your local desktop, right? And different files, whether it's that, or your data is coming straight from BigQuery or Redshift, whatever, it's both, it's just kind of causes error. So it's not like, hey, is this issue happening with one particular form of data source? Nuh-uh. It's happening on all these systems. So that's what's happening. If you can move on to the next one, Josh. Okay, so one of the solutions that we've seen, and if in fact something that I've actually started out with, so I'm very much culpable of this, is that we've seen kind of this inefficient solution. So let me explain what's happening here. It's like all these, let's say you're in a file system data source. Again, you have different data, like different CSVs or Parquet, whatever it is, different CSV files in your local desktop, and you're trying to run validations on all these data. So one of the things that you can do, and this is again the inefficient solution, is that you can try to create one asset per one file, which then has one batch, which then has batch requests. That's what the BR stands for, which goes to expectation suite. That's what the ES is. Essentially, it's like kind of combining that that first flow chart that I showed you guys with the simple solution of 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, right? Using that for a very advanced use case, right? So each data has its own 1, 1, 1, 1 object, and then you try to run into a checkpoint. That works. That's something I've done, right? But what we're proposing instead of doing this is to have one asset instead. Now, you might say, hey, what the heck, Action? There's actually not that big of a difference. All you've just done is you've reduced one part of this whole diagram, which is reduce multiple assets into one. How is that any different? It's actually quite a much more of an efficient and elegant solution. It's something that Austin is going to be showing a demo of to show you guys the difference between what this actually looks like from a coding perspective, because it's going to, I think, impact your, just make it much more legible. There's not much writing of code that's needed. It's a lot more of a, I would call like a more of a Pythonic solution. But again, that's for Austin. So we'll show you exactly what we mean by this, the inefficient versus the proposed solution. Before that, let me show you the one last link to this. Josh, if you can go to the next slide. If you can click on this. Okay, yes. So we're still having this PR. That's we're gonna try to merge this, but this is going to be roughly what it's gonna look like, right? This is going to be a document that shows you exactly what I've been talking about. What do you do when you have multiple batches of data, multiple CSVs, let's say, living in your local data, local computer? How do you efficiently process this? Again, that's the problem. This is the solution that we're proposing right here. It's a lot of reading. It's going to be up there soon. It's going to be under this validate data, under manage checkpoints. We can also send you that link. We're just kind of patching up the language a little bit to make it a lot more user readable and other things. But again, so this is what it is. Let me turn it over to Austin, who's going to be showing you the actual code demonstration to, again, show the difference between the two different solutions proposed. So yeah, that's the end of my segment. Thank you, everybody.
Cool. Thanks, Abhijan. Austin, I don't see any slides here. Do you wanna? Are you trying to take over?
Thanks, Abhijan. Thanks, Josh. I'm gonna steal it from you right now.
Cool.
Okay. So to set this up, we've got a small directory with 2 CSVs in it. We're going to be validating that data. Now we want to validate this all at once in one checkpoint. And the inefficient way, the one-to-one method that Abhijan was talking about, we need to know exactly how many files we have and how to capture those unique individual files. So in the case of 2 files that we want to validate, that's not the end of the world, but what if we don't know how many files we're going to validate? What if we don't want to have to explicitly build assets and batch requests and validations for each one of those files, right? This works. We get our validations, but you can see if we had 50 files, 1,000 files, n number unknown files, this could be a huge problem. What we can do instead is specify a single regex that's going to capture whatever files we have in that directory. We build a single batch request instead of having to build explicit batch requests for every file. And then we're doing a batch list, we're calling batch list from that single asset, and then splitting that batch list out batch by batch, capturing every file Pythonically with this list comprehension, and then building validations batch by batch without having to be explicit about how many batches there are, how we're at, like what their names are. We don't have to worry about any of that. And we get the same result. We're capturing all of our batches from that asset without introducing any extra overhead for every single batch or file that we're dealing with. Super quick, we're doing all of this in 5 lines of code, as opposed to having to introduce an extra 3 lines of code for every single batch or asset that we're dealing with. So this process, this block particularly, is what's captured in that document that Habichen just shared. We think it's going to save a lot of time and a lot of effort and introduce a lot more flexibility in how you're doing multi-batch validations with GX.
Oh, thanks, Austin. Can you scroll up? Actually, don't stop sharing it. Can you scroll up to the inefficient way of doing things? So I want to give I want to give the audience just like a chance to see the kind of the difference here, and I'm also trying to absorb it a little bit. So so looks like okay. So you start with you trying to build data asset 1, data asset 2 from the data source, and then for each data asset, you're trying to create a batch request 1 and batch request 2 from each data asset. Gotcha. And then you're putting all the batch requests into a list, right?
Yep. And we have to explicitly pass each batch request
right
into this validation. Yeah.
Gotcha. And then and then you run the checkpoint here. In this case, you don't do. You have one asset, which is data source, and then you have this, use this function called build batch. No, that's still right. You have one batch request, and then you put it in. Got it. Okay. Yeah. Alrighty. Let me pause for questions. Maria asks, is it a risk to performance having 2 loops? So I think she's referring. Are you referring to, Maria? There's a loop to build the batch requests with batch request list, and then there's one to iterate through the batch list. Is that right?
Yeah, I can speak to that a little bit. Certainly, if you're doing this at a huge scale, there's a potential that you run into like computer memory issues. Where we see this being particularly useful are for folks which come into a community all the time that are already doing this manually. We see this frequently where users are already introducing these loops, but using them to explicitly define individual files, individual assets, and batch requests, similar to that first flowchart that Habichen put up. And so they're already doing this process, but it's costing them a lot more time and labor. This is a simplification of that process. I think the risks are essentially the same, but hopefully the labor incumbent with those risks is much less.
Cool.
And happy chat,
Well,
if you'd like to speak to that as well, please.
No.
I mean, I do think Maria also maybe the other concern here is that maybe Maria's question made me think is we're really holding all of there's a lot to holding memory, right? So if we do, is there a way for us to get around the fact that we don't? Is there a way we can like not hold all of this in memory if we need to?
Yeah, so that's very dependent on your data source. So in this case, we're working with a file system. These are Pandas assets essentially. And so, yeah, as is required with Pandas, the data is going to be brought into memory whenever it's validated or operated on. If we were doing this on multiple batches within a SQL database, all that compute's pushed back on the database. And so then it's up to whatever the capabilities of your database or your Spark instance, for example, are capable of.
Cool. Yeah. So if you're running out of memory, go use the database. Any other questions? I just want to highlight, looks like, sorry, I missed a question from Aaron. Is the efficient solution equally applicable to file system and SQL? Yes. And the answer is yes from John. Any other questions? Let's make sure we put this, I think when it's ready, maybe we can put it in the GX share channel too. So in our Slack. So when we merge this PR, that way community can see it. We have another question from Amani. I am using GX operator with Airflow and want to store the validation results, which is a JSON, in a database. One, can I store it in Redshift, or for now only limited to Postgres? So why don't we answer that first, and then we'll move on to the second part of the question.
So our current documentation only explicitly deals with Postgres. The functionality is not strictly tied to Postgres. So you totally could store in Redshift. You could theoretically store in any database that GX is able to interact with through SQL Alchemy. We just don't have explicit guidance for every dialect available.
Cool. And then the second part of the question, with class name, database store backend, great expectations are YAML. It has defaults set to columns, but how do I add more columns to the G validation store table? I don't quite understand the question, but maybe Austin, you know more about this. Yeah, Amani, can you maybe say a bit more about so it looks like we have some defaults in our great expectations YAML. I think you want to configure. Are you looking to configure the YAML? So you can add another, so you can add some more columns to what you store, I guess, into the G validation store table. Is G validation store a table that GX creates or that you have? Okay, so GX creates that table. I don't know this off the top of my head. I don't know if someone else. If not, I think we can answer this in Slack. I don't.
Yeah, this is not something, I'm not sure off the top of my head what the path forward here would be, but Amani, if you want to come into the discourse with this, that would be awesome. And we can
Yes.
go from there.
Yeah, discourse. Thanks, Amani, for asking the question. Post in discourse and we'll take a look at it. Anyone else have any questions? Maybe maybe have a oh, actually, maybe I can leave that slide up there. Let me see if I still have it. It's this one. Nope, that's not the right one. Let's see if I can. Slide, maybe that can help people jog some memories or share some questions. What is this for? Do you see relevant docs? Is that what you see? Okay, cool. Yeah, so let me put the proposed solutions up here. So from now on, nobody is creating multiple assets for multiple batches. One asset for all your batches. Okay. You should see a new doc coming soon, and then we'll also share in GX Share. Please now, if you can, send all your questions to our discourse rather than Slack, if possible. Yeah, thank you all for coming. Thank you all for all your contributions for the past month. Thank you for continuing to grow both our community and our open source product. And thank you for participating. See you all in a month. Thanks, everybody.